Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Uh, Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kuhle Nkosi, and I am one of your moderators for Men Deserve Flowers Too. Now, the discussion that we're having today, the theme is that of men, legacy, and identity through wellness. And as someone who is ever steadily approaching 50, I am 42. Um, Wellness has become something that's rather integral in my life and my lifestyle. So not just mental wellness, but physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially, because they're all interlinked. And so to help me further the conversation and have a better understanding about wellness and identity, and legacy, especially for men and black men. I'm joined by the good brother Jared Adkins, a nutritional a health coach, and the founder of the Wellness Takeover, which is a community-first wellness experience that brings together education, culture, and connection. He's based in New York, and he's been redefining what it means to live well, especially for communities that have always been centered, that haven't always been centered in wellness conversations. So, Jared, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for having this conversation with me. Before we dive into the wonderful work that it is that you do, I just wanted to know, how are you really doing? How's your heart? Are you good?
Thank you, Gucci. First of all, appreciate the intro. I appreciate what you're doing, moderating this event. Shout out to Tehu for letting me be a part of this event. Men Deserves Flowers too is a great call to action to, push men and help men that are, help them be more vulnerable. So I appreciate y'all for letting me be a part of this conversation. And second, I'm doing well. Today is it's Monday, Monday afternoon in New York right now. So
Mm.
just kicking off the week. It's been going great. Just kicking off the week with work, but I'm always blessed to have my glass full. So that's where I'm at right now.
I'm happy to hear that, my man. I'm
How are
happy to
you
hear
doing?
that.
How are you doing today?
Me, thank you. I'm good. Just I think it being almost the end of the year, uh, a little bit of fatigue is kicking in, you know.
Yeah.
And I think part of the essence of wellness is self-awareness, right? Recognizing where you're at. And so uh, the last couple of weeks has been about that, just trying to maintain my energy levels,
Mhm.
and not overexert myself too much, to fight that urge to, sometimes as men, it's like kind of like that Goggins thing, that David Goggins of like, you know, push harder,
Yeah.
which sometimes is necessary, but sometimes can be counterproductive. So it's that fine little balance.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's something big as as men, we tend to think that we got to keep going and going and going. We tend to be in this rat race. And sometimes we don't take it, we don't self check, we don't check in with ourselves. So I think
100%.
like this event here is very important for men to check in with themselves because we're the providers. We like to make sure that we can continue to build our business, continue to grow in any aspect of life that we're in. So we're always in go mode. So it's good to, hear you say that out loud I hope that you reflect on that, like realizing like, yes, we're getting towards the end of the year. You've been grinding all year. Now it's like starting to burn out a little bit, but you're starting to realize like, all right, what can I do to sustain this energy for the rest of the year? And that's important. So
Thanks.
shout out to you for
Thanks.
acknowledging that.
Thanks. Now, Jared, I wanted to know, how did you get into this? What's the backstory behind a black brother from New York, and where about in New York are you based? And yeah, like what inspired you to go into wellness, especially because it isn't something so common for us.
Yes, appreciate that. So it's a couple different things that got me into the wellness space. I think I had a couple nudges from the God and universe telling me to go in this direction just throughout life. I always been play sports my whole life, was play basketball, football. I played a bunch of different sports, so I was very active. And then as I got towards the end of my 20s, I sustained a blood clot when I was coming back from vacation in Mexico. So I didn't realize what it was at first. Unfortunately, I had my uncle who had passed a couple months prior to me experiencing this blood clot. So I had this, I was like, my leg had swelled up, and I was like, something's weird here. So then I went to the hospital. Then they told me I had a blood clot not only in my lung, but in my lung. So God willing, luckily I was able to catch that, and I was able to, in that moment, of course, I was not sure what life was going to look like moving forward. I was just, very, emotional, not sure what's next, and just, took just taken back for someone going through this. It was just like, why am I experiencing this? Asking God, asking the universe, like, why am I going through these things? And and what that did was turn my pain into purpose and push me towards, really trying to figure out what's going on with my health, and then also just in my family. My family has had other health issues, and I was like, how can I help them? So what that has led me on is taking time to self-reflect and just start, meditating, start doing healing modalities to help myself. And then while I was helping myself, that really helped me realize like why, how can I help other people at the same time? So I just so what I was at I got laid off from my job after when I was working at Google during the tech space, but then a lot of layoffs were happening, especially when AI started coming about out in the States. So I took this time to just reflect and figure out what I'm passionate about, what I really want to do, and just being that health was something I was big on. That just kind of led me in that direction. So I started going to yoga classes. I started going to meditation classes. I started doing sound healing. Started doing all these different things, and then I was like, I need to expose more people to this. Like, how can I get more people like us to have access to this? So that just brought me to the wellness takeover. So I decided to do a proof of concept at Soul House. It's a membership club out in the States. And I also think they have it in Europe, as they have it in Europe all over the globe. So I did it as a proof of concept to see if people would be interested in coming to an event like this. So I pretty much curated workshops and activities for people to do when they come to this event. So that was the first event was in October of 2023. So it's almost, yeah, almost a full 2 years from then. So it's a lot has happened since then, and I'm proud to see how much we've grown since then. And just doing that showed that people were interested in it, and that's continued with my health journey. And then I became a nutritional health coach while I've been curating these events, and it's been great. Just helping people figure out, like, especially young men and men in general, just figure out what health and wellness looks like to them has been my passion, and just continue to push that message forward.
That's
I'm sorry for
sensational,
the
man.
long-winded answer as well. Apologies on that.
No, 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 no. I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? Is for us to have a better understanding of the journey. You know,
Mm,
a person needs to be able to recount and share exactly how it's played out for them. You know,
mhm.
that's where the nuance lies, and that's what allows us to have or gain greater appreciation. So I thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Now, you're talking about the fact that you were laid off, and one of the things, for men in particular is the whole aspect of being a provider. And for a lot of men, and this is a question that I've been asking more and more with the work that I do. Who are you as a man without money? When the whole process happened that you were now retrenched, and you're also going through this, unfortunate health scare with your blood clots, what is going through your mind, right, in terms of your worth at that point,
Mm,
and the journey from there to, okay, cool, the wellness takeover.
mm. It's a great question.
Yeah.
That's great. No, that's a great question. So what was going through my mind at the time, I would say was confusion, but something my mother always lived by and has instilled in me and my brother is everything happens for a reason. So took that, and I just felt like, all right, this is happening for a reason. There's a reason this is happening to me, and it may be for a bigger purpose, and it may be for something bigger than I can even realize right now. So I realized if I was able to get through this and if I'm able to get out of this hospital, then there's a bigger purpose for me. So that was kind of my mindset when when all this was happening to me, being laid off, being going through this health issue, was like, all right, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So
Yeah.
I just have to figure out what this is going to build, what I'm going to build from this, what am I going to learn. And that took came from a lot of self-reflection, like just sitting back, meditating, just really honing in on what is going to work for me, what's going to be best for me. That helped me go towards, all right, realizing the circle that I have around me, all these people in the health and wellness space, but how can I bring this to other people? And that kind of just where it's like kind of snapped into motion, like, oh, I could create this event. And I haven't seen any, I haven't, noticed anything like that at the time when I was putting this event together. And then that's why I did the proof of concept to see if people would be interested in it. And once people came out, it was like a rainy October Saturday. It was, and still had a good about 40, 50 people show up. So it was a great turnout, and I got a lot of good feedback from it. So that kind of reiterated like, oh, people want this and people need this. And that's kind of how I've been able to stay focused and passionate about just continue this journey.
So I guess that answers the question of um, identifying the gap, because the one thing that I found in my journey with in this wellness space is it is predominantly white centered. Um, Women are a lot more active within the wellness space. Women of all colors, especially
Mm.
Black women, have become, I think Black women in general have always been, you know, practitioners of wellness. It's just maybe not as structured, or wasn't always as structured, but it's just ancestrally something that women have just been a part of. So it's like us as Black men, we're almost late to the party now, and but we're joining, right? So
Mhm.
there is that gap. Now, you're talking about when you started the Rainy October, 40, 50 people. How have you been received by other men? Uh, what does what does the demographic look like? Is there a high number of Black men that are there? Is it sparse? Is it diverse? Yeah. And what are the numbers looking like now?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you pointed that out. So demographic wise, as you mentioned, women have, especially old women, especially Black women, have been in the wellness space. They cater towards wellness easier and they gravitate towards wellness a lot easier than men, especially Black men. Black men, so when I first started this event, the first event I had, it was mostly women. And then that kind
Mm,
of, it was great that I had people show up, but I was like, all right, I see my women are in this wellness space and they are interested about learning about this, but how do I cater to our men? So I had after that first event, I had other events after, and then I started seeing more women, and I was like, all right, I need to get my guys here. I need to start, sending out mass messages to get my guys involved. So this last event I had back in June of this year, it was focused on men's health and wellness. We had different activations and workshops to help men specifically get through, be more vulnerable and help them have other ways of have an outlet to talk about these things and see other ways of healing. So, for example, the last event we had red light therapy, massage therapy,
mm,
vitamin B12 shots, vitamin D shots,
mm,
different things that men and women could partake in. They also can learn and educate themselves on, so they can go back home, talk to their friends, like, what I was doing at this event? I was doing red light therapy. This helps with blood circulation.
nice.
I was doing vitamin B12. Like this helps with just to get your overall mood and energy up. So just helping them see like the cool factor of the wellness. I think one thing that gets men involved with the wellness space now, men are starting to trend in that direction, is just seeing that it's a cool element to it. So like for my last event, I had the good brother 19 Keys. He's a visionary futurist, and he's big on terms of masculinity and helping men figure out how they can go about, creating that masculinity and helping out women as helping create this because in America right now, I don't know if it is the same way in South Africa right now or Africa in general, but it's very divisive, especially through social media and just
Mm,
through a lot of the media that's being put and exposed to us right now. It's become very divisive in terms of men and women not getting along. So what
100%.
I try to do is with these events and just overall conversation is try to make sure that we're all one. We have to make sure that if we treat each other like we are one, we can that's the humanity aspect and that's how we grow. and that's how we progress as a culture and then just as a people. So I think by having these events, I've been able to start to bridge that gap into having more men show up and just realize how important wellness is because hate to say it, most men wait until we get to our 40s and 50s, and then by then we already done developed a lot of the diseases that are irreversible. And at that time, it's like, oh, what can I do now? And it's like we could have, prevented this when you were in your early 20s, 30s. Like you could
Yeah,
have instilled these habits to live a longer and healthier lifestyle. So it's about making those, creating those habits and showing wellness from a cool perspective, in my opinion.
I like that. I like that, and it's so true because I was um I was reading an article recently that gave a list. This was a list that was released shortly after the tragic passing of D'Angelo. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And it spoke about black men who have passed in their 50s and was this rather ridiculously long list of entertainers
Hmm.
who in their 50s, early 50s, from D'Angelo and DMX to Irv Gotti and a plethora of other people that have passed on, and a lot of it has to do unfortunately with lifestyle. And one of the things that I try to get across to people is when we talk about like mental health. I think often the concept or the reception of mental health is a very broad overview, and we tend to look at wellness and mental health from the most drastic of points. So
Hmm.
we'll only address mental health when we're now talking about, you know, a person being bipolar, being schizophrenic, somebody crashing out, as they say.
Hmm.
When the way that I personally see it is if you start to approach it from the perspective that almost everything that you do has to do with mental health, right? So from what you eat to
Yep.
even
Yep.
what you wear, how you talk,
Yep.
it's all connected. Then you're able to have a much greater and succinct approach to how you look at wellness. And I think the main aspect that we should try to look at when thinking about that is if you want to have a better chance of getting through your 40s and 50s, which is the most trickiest period for men, you need to start approaching it from that holistic approach in your late 20s and 30s.
Exactly, exactly. You hit it right, you hit the nail right on the coffin. Like I'm big on like one of the main things I focus on as a health coach is looking at health from a holistic perspective. Because
Mm,
most people come to me saying, "Oh, how can I make my nutrition better? What is like what diets can you tell me?" Diets are great, but diets are short-term things, short-term goals. And once you reach that goal, most people that go on diets end up going back to their old habits. So it's about
true.
creating those lifestyle habits that'll last forever to help you get to those changes that you're looking for. So as a health coach, I focus on 12 primary foods. We call this we call it 12 primary foods. So that's looking at life from a holistic perspective, from your spirituality, your creativity, your finances, your career, your education. So it's like this wheel, I don't know if y'all ever want to be able to see it, but it's like this wheel. There we go. I'll share a
Uh,
copy with I'll share a copy with y'all so y'all can
with
see it.
Tsecho, yeah.
I'll share it so that way I can share it with everyone else. But I pretty much go through this a circle of life, we call it, which is 12 primary foods in all different categories. So that way we can see where people are on this circle of life. And based on where you are, you can start addressing, oh, maybe my social life is lacking right now. What could I do to, be around other people and socialize more? Or maybe my home environment is too cluttered right now. What can I do to clean out my space or create more space? So looking at life from a holistic perspective is always ideal, and I've seen more changes happen that way versus doing a short-term diet or only focusing on one thing. I think you have to focus on if you look focus on your health, you have to focus on it from a holistic perspective.
I like that. And the thing that I pick up from that, right, is
Mhm.
taking accountability. I think a lot of times when people hear the word accountability, we tend to look at it again from like the most drastic of ways, like you've done something wrong. So now you have to take accountability for, having hurt someone. When in reality, like you were saying now, cleaning your bedroom, noticing that, okay, my space is starting to get cluttered. You know,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. As someone who's dealt with depression over the years, is remembering that when your parents would be like, clean your bedroom. You're thinking it's just this laborious task of having to clean your bedroom, but realizing that the cleaner your space, the cleaner your mind, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
little things like that. Again, the nuances. Now,
Mm,
the thing that I found, unfortunately, is when having these type of conversations, um, kind of bring it back to what we're saying regarding brothers and the reception of wellness is there does tend to be a resistance, right? And I think the one of the key elements to really embracing this journey of wellness is being able to be honest with yourself, having that self-awareness. And I'll give you an example. I posted something recently saying I think a lot of men would get on with themselves a lot easier if they just admitted that they don't like women at like a cellular and molecular level, right?
mm, mm,
As living, breathing beings. And I still found resistance. And I didn't say all men, I said some. And I
mm,
still had, some people come challenge that. So with that, I look at that and I'm like, how do I get across to someone like this who is already just so resistant, you know,
mm.
with a post that was intentionally articulated. I intentionally said some because I know there'll be people who, if I didn't, would be like, not all men. So that leads me to ask, with you and your journey, what are some of the challenges and struggles that you found, the resistance that you faced from the community that you're most trying to penetrate, that being other Black brothers?
That's a great question. So right now, I would say there's a couple of different ways to look at this. So right now, we're in a time, especially in the States, where there's more distractions than ever before, and there's more knowledge being spewed out ever before. So to get people's attention span is a lot harder than it was 10 years ago. So when it comes to sharing information or trying to get people to understand how important health and wellness is for them long term, is we kind of have to look at it from the way media does, pushes a lot of narratives in front of us. I'm very big on just continue to push that narrative on why health and wellness is important. So I may try to do if I'm getting resistance, I'll post more. I'll send out more emails, just because the same way the I would say the mass media pushes a lot of information on face. We need to do the same thing when it comes to being healthier and why it's important to be why this will lead to a wealthier lifestyle. So what I do outside of, and it's still something that it's still an ongoing battle because I still have friends and friends that I went to college with and friends from my old neighborhood that still have yet to come to an event. But I think when they start seeing somebody else, at least one person, make that shift, they're like, oh, it's just, that one person, they'll start asking more questions. And I've seen the change of just having, like, for example, one of my friends, I was telling him I go to yoga. He was like, what is yoga? He wasn't too sure. He just knew it was some form of stretching. But I was like, yo, just call me to do some yoga, and I'll tell you, it's a great experience, and we'll talk about it after. Like, we'll see how it goes from here. And just taking him to yoga after yoga, he was like, bro, why are you just not telling me about this? This is a great experience. Like, I was able to
Yeah,
not only have a moment to just do something that I've never done before in terms of physical activity, but I was able to be around a bunch of beautiful women. And I was like, see, look, you're able to not only enjoy, working out, but you're able to connect with other people in a like-minded industry. And at the same time, this is helping you realize what you may really like to do. So it's just, I would say, putting the medicine in the candy, showing them that it's also fun. You can have, or showing them that you can become healthier by going to different events and sparking that nuance in their brain. Like, oh, there's other activities from playing basketball, playing football that we did when we were
yeah,
kids, but we can do other activities as grown men to still fulfill that inner child, which I think that comes back to a lot of especially men. We're now vulnerable and we tend to remove ourselves from our inner child. And our inner child is sometimes we need to reflect back on to really gain that happiness that we need to fulfill.
I like that. Look, I could talk to you for much longer, all night actually.
Of
But I do need to wrap this up,
course,
unfortunately.
of course.
But I like the fact that what the essence of what you're saying is that this is a lifestyle and it's not a trend. Now, how do we get you here and us there, because I feel that this is something, especially as Black brothers, as a community, we need to look at, expanding this conversation and the diaspora and making this cross-continental. What, in closing, would your um, what are some of your ambitions? What would you like to see happen
Mhm.
with your business and your journey?
Great question. So the wellness takeover is meant to be global. This is not just a New York City thing. This is not just a United States thing. It's meant to be global. So by being a part of panels like this, my goal is to come out to South Africa, come out to Africa in general, create these environments to continue to build community, continue to educate people on how to live overall healthier lifestyle. And that starts with next year. I was trying to make it out to Africa this year, but unfortunately, due to my work, my day job out here, I wasn't able to make that happen. But next year, I'm gonna make it out to Africa where we can set up another event where we can touch on a lot of different things that I would love to touch on in terms of like the primary foods, which I went over. And at the same time, I already spoke to Teo, so she could come out here, have an event, Men Deserves Flowers too in New York City or wherever she like to have it in the States. It's about collaboration. I think that's the biggest thing that I would want people to take away from is that we can't do it by ourselves. The only way we can really
Thanks.
grow is through collaboration. Because if we all want to see a change, it comes with unity. So I want people to understand that as we continue this health and wellness journey, it's a lifestyle, it's something that you continue to build on every single day. And it's okay to have mistakes. People, go back and make mistakes, but it's like how do you get back on that bicycle after you fall off? So just remember that, it's just a day by day process and collaboration is key, and that's how we continue to grow together.
All right, Jared, look, man, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely need to continue this conversation. Like I
Yeah,
said, this has got to be something cross-continental because
of
it's a
course.
really big conversation that our community needs to continue having and showing that, even with this whole FBA and African wars going on, men versus women, there are those of us who seek to come together and just promote a healthier way of life through the holistic wellness. And for those who've been watching, I thank you for joining us. This
Thank
has
you.
been a greater part of Men Deserve Flowers too. And I hope everybody has enjoyed the conversation. Jared, thanks again, and
Thank you.
we'll talk
Thank you.
soon.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all
God
all. Yeah.
bless.
Take care.
Bye.